Hello everyone, today I want to make a little bit of a different video from the usual stuff. Today I want to talk about Fire Emblem Ironman runs and why you're likely never going to see me attempt one. Before we begin, I want to say that this video is not scripted because the other day I was recording an Asperg video and that has a script. It's the first script I wrote for a video, but turns out that I talked way too fast in that video, so I decided to scrap the original audio clips and record it in a future time. Maybe tomorrow, I'm not sure, but for the purposes I have to re-record that whole video. But yeah, with all that being said, let's ask the question, what is an Ironman run? An Ironman run for Fire Emblem is the closest thing to a Pokemon Nuzlocke. It's usually played on the hardest difficulty available, and I say hardest because there are some exceptions to that rule, in big quotations, but we're going to talk about that a little later. And if a unit of your army dies, they're dead for the rest of the run, no restarts, no turn wheels, no nothing. If they're dead, they have to stay dead. And if you meet any kind of game over conditions, that's it, run over, back to the start. If I want to use a harsh term for it, Ironman runs are basically straight up filters. Filters for bad plays and stupidity. It divides the players that actually know what they're doing and the bad players or the dumb players. Again, it's a bit of a harsh explanation, but that's basically what it is. This thing actually shows which people actually know what they're doing and which people are just praying for the best and nothing goes wrong. And that's for the purposes my first point. Now, the first point would technically be the fact that I haven't played that many Fire Emblem games. I finished on the channel Engage, Warriors, the original Warriors. Of course, I'm doing Burfer right now. I finished Path of Radiance. I finished Sacred Stones. And while in private, I finished New Mystery of the Emblem, although I didn't complete it because I got the bad ending because I couldn't save Minerva. But I finished you could say a decent chunk of Fire Emblem games, but not almost all the series or all the entire series like a lot of people have done. So I'm going to exclude that point just from the get-go. The first point I am actually going to mention is the fact of RNG. Now, if you don't know, Fire Emblem is heavily dependent on RNG. If you want one good example, the playthrough Fates. I just finished chapter 10 on the boat, and if you count from when I started the playthrough up until now, all the times which my units missed a 80+ hit, you're probably going to need a new liver. If you took a shot every time somebody missed a 80+ hit, 80% plus hit from the start of the playthrough up until now, you're probably going to need a new liver. And that's one of the reasons why, because as stated, Ironman runs are heavily punishing. They punish you for making mistakes, but at the same time, they're super punishing for bad luck, because chances are your unit might miss a 90, but the enemy unit is going not only to hit a 37, but also get a crit or like a 1% crit. That and there are plenty of examples. I can think of Davis G that did an Ironman run that actually got critted by a 1% in his I believe it was Shadow Dragon, I believe, but yeah, he got critted, and he lost Jig into like 1% crit, and yeah, basically Iron Man runs, yes, as I stated, they punish bad plays, but they also heavily punish bad luck, and in terms of fates, yeah, I've had my fair share of bad luck, and I have to thank the fact that I am on casual mode because, yeah, half of my army would already be dead if it wasn't for that. So, yeah, RNG is, for this purpose, is the first reason why I don't want to do Iron Man runs. The second point would be difficulty. Not in the sense of skill issue, which I have no shortage of, as even with all the bad luck, I still have plenty of skill issue on my part, but rather on the fact of the games. And I'm not the only one that says this, but I've seen a lot of people say it. But ever since Fire Emblem introduced casual mode with New Mystery of the Emblem, games have become much more about, you know, sticking to an army and focus on that instead of showing you with units every other chapter, unlike the other games. One example, of course, would be Shadow Dragon, or rather FE1 and FE3, where they shoved you with tons and tons of units every single chapter. Because of course that game was made with the intention of units dying. Kaga said so, in fact. I mean, one of the reasons why he made Fire Emblem with permadeath is that he didn't want people to have the same playthrough, and people dying is perfectly fine because other than you know, having all these units, also shows you, you know, the effects of war and just how devastating it can be. But one example of a game that is terrible for Iron Mans is Fire Emblem Three Houses. Now, I know Zev is doing a, I believe a Black Key. No, it wasn't Black Key. He was doing a maddening run on Iron Man Run on Fire Emblem on Three Houses, and that game is possibly the antithesis of I pronounced that wrong, definitely. It's basically basically how the game works goes all against what Iron Man runs are all about, because that game just is the monastery. Just the game puts a lot of focus on building your units. You know, between training, between lessons, between that game basically tells you need to dump a lot of time onto your units, a lot of resources and time onto your units, and makes it pretty clear that if somebody dies, you're not gonna get all of that. You're gonna be wasted all of that. And also the game is notorious for not giving you that many replacements, so if somebody dies, yeah, good luck for the rest of the run. So, yeah. Now, I know that for some it might be a non-issue because you don't want to play a game with a lot of units. Well, just go play a game that actually has that just for his units, every single chapter. And well, that's not always the solution. Why? Because of a game called Radiant Dawn. Now, technically, Telus games should be perfect for Iron Man runs, and apparently Path of Radiance is just that. But Radiant Dawn, oh boy, Radiant Dawn, even though that game's cast is humongous, to the point that at one point you have to split the your army in four sections or something like that. I've actually never played Radiant Dawn. I might should it ever be released on the NSO, but right now I have no intention to. Also because that thing is like long as shit, so yeah. That game is filled to the brim with game over conditions, and for example, like chapter 1, like the very start of the game. Micaiah or Soph dying is not enough to trigger game over. Anybody from the Dawn Brigade dying triggers a game over from Nolan, Edward, and Leonardo. And I believe that's all of them for the... Oh, Laura. Sure, Laura. Laura, sorry. and Laura. Basically, if these guys die, if any of them die, that's game over. Back to the beginning. So yeah, games that actually have a lot of units. There's that one example where it's not exactly viable because, again, there are so many game over conditions in Rain and Dawn that even a game with a lot of units, yeah, it's not automatic. I'm not gonna say this. It's not a surefire way to get a fun Iron Man run. But yeah, the third point will be harking back to the thing I said at the beginning of the video, that being it's usually played on the highest difficulty setting, and I say usually because turns out people have done special rules, or rather have done exceptions to the rule. Another example would be, well, again, Davies G, because he's like the only guy that does Iron Man run that actually follows, so I'm going to take him as an example a lot. I mean, I've already taken him a lot of it as an example. He did a Iron Man run of Fate's Conquest, and he played on hard mode and not the harder difficulty setting, because he just straight up said that he didn't feel all too confident about playing it Conquest on the hardest difficulty, which makes sense. Conquest is the hardest of the three Fates games, and Zev, the other guy that does Iron Man runs that I follow, is currently has done an awakening Iron Man run on Maddening, but that was a Maddening that was not the Maddening, Lunatic Plus. There we go. No, sorry, I remember it was Lunatic Plus, but that was not the Lunatic Plus that you know, but a modified Lunatic Plus that was made not easier, but much more tolerable, because the original Lunatic Plus, if you remember in Awakening, is just straight up idiotically bad. It's one of the worst things that you could have ever played. And there's also a video from Axe Bros and Donlot that talked about Iron Man runs and how they feel about Iron Man runs. And at one point, around the end of the video, Donlot said that there are no... I'm paraphrasing, but... well, true, nobody has ever done a Iron Man run on FF6 or normal. It doesn't mean that you cannot do it. You can make your own set of rules. Anything you're more you're comfortable with. You don't have to do like the hardest thing if you don't feel like you're up to, or you don't have to. You're not forced to into one path. You can do whatever you want. You can make it an Iron Man on easy mode if you want to, and that's actually kind of a bad advice because in my opinion that would actually now I'll admit I'm a pretty big pessimist, so, and I always say that, and I always what's the word? I always tend to think the absolute worst, the worst case scenario almost all the time, and in the case of an Iron Man run, doing an Iron Man run on a difficulty that is lower than hard actually sets you up for a potential shit ton of abuse, and of course a lot of memes against you, because well, with a less harder game, people expect you to make less mistakes, or at least to have a little bit more of an easier time. And if you screw up, either because you either screwed up, or because you got unlucky, then chances are you might meet people saying, "Wow, holy fuck! How the fuck did you get that? You're in hard mode, you're in normal, you're playing Sacred Stone or easy. You're struggling this much? For the love of God, stop playing this fucking serious and just focus on, I don't know, Cold Unit Recruit mode or some shit." And yeah, now I know that some people might say this and say they're just elitists, just ignore them. But it's really hard to ignore them, because, yeah, well, elitism is not exactly the issue that it was back when Awakening was a thing. It's still pretty big issue. In fact, I actually had a friend that had legitimately had to deal with elitists just a couple of days ago. So, yeah, but again, I'll really say it, this is also fueled by my pessimism. I'm always thinking, if it goes wrong, it will go in the worst way possible. If it goes wrong, it will go in the worst way possible. But yeah, there's always this nagging, lingering thing of, oh, what if actually an attempt to actually, this is actually what happened in the playthrough, my playthrough for Sacred Stones. What if, in the case of trying to get Natasha, I ended up sacrificing Naomi to recruit, actually no, that's the other way around. What happens is that in an attempt to recruit Joshua, I accidentally sacrifice Naomi, which is what happened in the playthrough, and I had casual, I modded casual mode on, so it was perfectly fine. But if it was like an Iron Man run, then definitely people would have told me, what the fuck did you do? Why did you sacrifice her? There was no need to. You just wasted a unit for no good fucking reason. And yeah, that probably would have been not exactly a good moment, especially considering that Nimi was one of the best units in that playthrough. Let's just avoid the fact that pretty much everybody died during the Formotus battle, final battle, but that's besides the point. But yeah, that's basically people expect you to perform better with lower difficulties, and when you don't, then yeah, it's your fault that you're too stupid to actually play it even on lowest difficulties. So yeah, that's actually the biggest reason why I don't want, I believe, doing Horror Man runs on anything lower than hard is a bad idea, because on hard mode, yeah, okay, there's bad stuff that you expect to be hard, and if it's on hard, then yeah, if somebody dies, it's perfectly fine, like the Western Isle stuff in FE6 or the entire Conquest, for example. But yeah, but this is like Fate's Birthright. I mean, with Fate's Birthright, current playthrough with Fate's Birthright. Fate's Birthright is considered the easiest of the three and one of the easiest games of the franchise. But the way I'm struggling with this game, I would have lost, like in the boat chapter. If I still were doing an Iron Man, I would have lost Setsuna, Rinka, Hayato, which I know not many people would say Hayato's that big of a loss, but he did pretty good in that chapter. If you've seen it, Sakura, I would have lost Sakura, and Hinaka would have been lost a little while ago. I believe I would have lost a lot of units in just 2 chapters, and by that point, I'm pretty sure a lot of people would say, for the love of God, stop playing. If you're struggling this much on like normal, on what is supposed to be the easiest game of the franchise, yeah, you're probably never going to finish it. So might as well just quit immediately. So yeah, that's actually one of the biggest reasons why I don't want to. That's one of the biggest reasons, another reason why I don't want to do Iron Man runs. And the fourth and final point is also the one point that a lot of people say when attempting people to convince people doing Iron Man runs. The fact that you need to accept that failure is inevitable and you always have to be prepared for it. And yeah, that's of course the hardest point of doing an Iron Man run, is the fact that you cannot accept failure. And to make one example, even if I played I'm playing Fate's Birthright on casual mode, so it doesn't really matter if somebody dies. Yeah, I still feel really bad about it, because I realized oh, what if apart from the fact that I usually play Fire Emblem, at least I try as much as I possibly can to play Fire Emblem as if I'm playing classic mode, which explains why I am not doing like suicide tactics or that stuff, because yeah, I'm trying to play the game because I'm trying to play a Fire Emblem game as if I don't have that cushion called casual mode, even though I have it, but still, you know what I mean. You know what I mean. And of course there are plenty of moments where a unit died and felt like super bad about, because I thought, oh, because of course then the issue is, oh, I could have done this, I could have moved this somewhere else, something happened, I could have done that differently. And of course the other thing of now this is kind of a stupid idea, a stupid thing to say, but when somebody dies because of bad luck, it's I also feel super bad about it, because there's always this nagging feeling that people are going to tell you you're trash even if you lost half of your units, not for your fault, but because you know, of because of bad RNG. Like for example, like again the example that I made, I missed like a 90% hit that I could have killed them. But my enemy not only manages to hit the 45%, but manages to crit me, and to be managing with him. And also, if you really want the icing of the cake, he actually managed to double crit me, which is exactly what happened with chapter 9, I believe, on Birthright, where Kotato critted twice in a row. First with an Alaka, which killed her, and then with Korin. And both attempts were, and both crit rates were not even in the double digits. They were like 6%. So yeah, that's I guess you could say that I'm blaming myself for stuff that I couldn't predict. Like the fact that I was supposed to predict that, you know, I was gonna crit twice, or that everybody would gang over one unit, even though there were plenty of baits everybody else. Which is, I know that's not a good mindset to have, but that you're blaming yourself for stuff that's not even your fault, even if it's just a game. But still, I can't let go of this feeling of, well, I got credit by some rando. I got credit by some random archer. That doesn't have a killer axe. But what if somebody tells me, it says, why the fuck did you do that? You should have done something else, so you should have predicted you were going to crit. Yeah, it's not exactly a good feeling. And yeah, I stated one of the biggest tips for Ironman runs is the fact that failure is inevitable, and you need to accept it and just learn to move on. But yeah, I simply cannot move on, even though I can move on, because there's always this nagging feeling. It's, at the end of the day, it's always about, you know, how do other people feel about watching my playthrough and see me either struggle with an easy game or getting credited because I couldn't see that I was going to get credited. So yeah, that's basically the fourth and overall final reasons why you're probably never going to see me attempt an Ironman run. Now, it's true that I could potentially change my mind on the thing and eventually just do an Ironman run, but I am not a guy that changes idea all too quickly, or rather changes idea at all. If you want one example, I played the Cyberpunk 2077 before, and I even pre-ordered the game, and I was so disappointed by not the technical issues, but more like there was a lot of stuff to do, and there was a lot of stuff to do, like 50,000 missions in like one go, and I had absolutely no idea what to do or where to go, and yeah, it left me pretty disappointed. And even 6 years later, when now the game has gone, the game has made a recovery that can only be rivaled by No Man's Sky, although let's be real, the main reason why the game even had a comeback story to begin with is only because it was Edge Runners. If it wasn't for that fucking anime, like Cyberpunk 2077 will still be in the mud. And also Cyberpunk and also CDP are almost sabotaged themselves, because little fun fact, this is a little bit tangent, but hear me out. When the Studio Trigger showed them the design of Rebecca, they straight up refused. They refused it, and they told Studio Trigger to change how she looks like. And basically, Studio Trigger gave them an ultimatum: either leave and let us Rebecca, either let us do Rebecca like we want, or we'll not make the anime, and then good luck with the video game's reputation. And they landed, and well, guess what? Now they're safe. So yeah, but it's still that game still, I think, it still disappointed me, and I haven't touched it ever since. So yeah, I'm not a guy that changes ideas, and well, I mean, I guess, although sometimes that's the case. For example, I never wanted to play a Fire Emblem game on the channel because I was afraid of, abuse and hatred, abuse, and of course the comments of the elitists. But then I decided to record Engage, and well, I could play 4 games in this channel. So, but those are like very, very few and far between, and yeah. Again, I have no idea. Right now I have zero intention of doing an Ironman run, and I'll just let the guys that actually know what they're doing do it. But who knows? I'm not gonna ask anybody. I'm definitely not gonna do it because somebody asked me. Other things maybe, but do an Ironman run because people ask me? Absolutely fucking not. Don't you dare. But yeah, those are my 4 points why I am never going to do an Ironman run, and and yeah, this video is officially over. And if you want to hear me, if you want to see more videos like this where I'm just rambling about a topic, let me know in the comments. It doesn't be about Fire Emblem, it could be about something else, but yeah, if you want to if you want me to talk about with videos and stuff, I mean, I technically already do that with the direct recaps, the direct state of play recaps, which by the way there's gonna be one on June the 2nd. There's gonna be a state of play. But yeah, if you want to see more videos like this, then let me know in the comments. And with all that being said, see you in the next video, folks.